At my parents' party, my sister sneered, "Don't fill your plate, you didn't pay for this." Mom smiled. "Real family comes first." I nodded, put on my coat, and left. Moments later, the manager delivered the bill. The woman in the red dress canceled the reservation payment and asked me to hand this to you. Their faces drained of color. I had been planning my parents' anniversary dinner for 2 months before anyone else knew it existed. I found the venue, a private room above a steakhouse with a wall of windows facing the river. I put down the deposit myself in my own name, and I told the coordinator one thing clearly: don't mention who paid. I wanted my mother to have one night that felt like a gift instead of a transaction. My sister found out 3 weeks in, when the coordinator accidentally copied her on a menu email. She didn't ask who was hosting. She assumed it was her turn to matter, the way she always does, and she started making changes. A second cake, a string quartet instead of the playlist I'd already picked. 6 extra guests I'd never met. Every time the coordinator called to confirm, I said no, and every time, my sister told him I was being difficult about my own parents' anniversary. I let her think she'd lost those fights. I didn't correct her in the group chat, and I didn't explain myself to my mother when she asked why I was being so tense about a party. I've learned that explaining myself to this family only gives them more material. The night of, I got there early. I wore the red coat my mother gave me for Christmas 2 years ago, the one she said made me look like I was trying too hard. My sister arrived 40 minutes late in white, kissed our parents on both cheeks, and started moving place cards before she'd even taken off her jacket. She moved herself to the seat beside our mother. She moved me to the end of the table by the kitchen door, where the waitstaff kept brushing past with trays. Nobody said anything. That's the thing about this family. Nobody ever says anything until I do. Dinner started, and my sister was already collecting compliments. She told my aunt she'd handled everything. She told our father the flowers were her idea. I watched her rewrite 2 months of my work into an evening she'd apparently thrown together out of love, and I told myself it didn't matter. That the point was the room, the food, my parents' faces, not who got credit for it. Then I reached for the serving spoon, and my sister put 2 fingers on my wrist. "Don't fill your plate," she said, loud enough for the whole table to hear. "You didn't pay for this." The table went quiet the way it does when everyone wants to see how much I'll absorb before I say something. My mother looked up from her wine glass and smiled, the smile she uses when she wants a conflict to be over before it starts. "Real family comes first," she said. I had arrived first. I had signed the contract. I was sitting at the end of the table by the kitchen door, because my sister had moved my face card, and my mother was telling a room full of relatives that I wasn't real family for reaching toward a dish I'd already paid for. I thought about pulling the folded contract out of my bag and putting it on the table next to my sister's plate. I thought about listing every phone call, every denied upgrade, every detail she'd claimed as hers. Then I thought about how many times I'd already done exactly that, in exactly this family, and how little it had ever changed, so I set the spoon down. "You're right," I said. My sister's mouth twitched into a small, satisfied shape. She thought I was folding. I shouldn't eat something I didn't contribute to. I stood up, put on my coat, and walked out through the private room's glass doors into the hallway. Nobody followed me. I hadn't expected them to. At the front desk, the coordinator was already looking at me before I said a word. 3 days earlier, when my sister had spent an hour on the phone, rearranging seating charts she had no authority to change, I'd sat down with him and asked one question. If something happens at that table and I need to leave, what happens to the bill? He'd walked me through it then. The contract had only ever had one name on it, and it wasn't going anywhere until I said so. He nodded like he'd been waiting for the sentence. "Pull the payment authorization," I told him. "If they ask who to blame, tell them the woman in the red dress canceled it and asked you to bring them the bill yourself."